Okay, and we're back live. Yes, once again. Excellent. Cool, 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 cool. Okay. We're very much quickly coming up on the end of the semester before you know it. Next week, as I've reminded people and over again, is a 3-day week. And I only have you guys one day next week. I only have you on Tuesday. And then after we get back from that 5-day weekend, the plan for that 4-day week, the plan is to be reviewing, pretty much straight up reviewing for the final exam. In fact, I realized, considering the scope of things that we have learned over the course of this semester, the scope of things that we've gone over, whether it be like voting methods, weighted voting methods, fair distribution of things, what have you, for color theorem, Fibonacci sequence. There's a lot of different things that I would like to review, and I would partially like to begin reviewing, not today, but actually on Tuesday of next week. I would like to begin partially reviewing then for our final exam, especially considering the fact that we would be taking our final exam on day one of senior exams. We'd be taking it on Monday, June 7th. But then I'd still have you that Wednesday. I'd still have you that Friday. But obviously, we'd be doing other things. I have a couple things in mind. We'll figure that thing out. Actually, I wonder if we have time for that. Oh, we might have time for that. Trying to think. We have it's like a 60-minute class period and then an 80-minute class period. I could totally fit in okay, I'm not going to say it just yet. I'll keep it to myself for now. I'll deal with that when the time comes. Anyway, as for today. Obviously, you guys are in person, but the people online have seen the video that I've posted on YouTube and the title of it. Today, I've entitled it Series and Sequence Catchup. I've called it Series and Sequence Catchup. And what I mean by that is this. I have an assignment practicing various things with series and sequences. I would like to give that to you guys literally a physical piece of paper in person. For those that are online, I'm going to have to obviously share the PDF for you, which I already have it ready to go. I just got to click submit to submit it to you guys. But that would be today's particular assignment. So actually, let me get that to you first, and then you'll be able to understand where I am coming from with this assignment. So I am going to click to post. For those of you that are online, you can go to your Google Classroom to get this particular assignment. And for those of you that are here, here we go. I'm going to give you said assignment. It's easier to describe what I want you to do when you actually have said thing. Before I forget, for those of you in the chat, if you have not already commented, please make sure that you do so. That would be wonderful and fantastic. I see somebody named Blah Blah is here. It literally says it. That's funny. Oh, message retracted. I'm assuming that was a personal account. Look, I'll show the video right here. It says blah, blah. Anyway. But this assignment, I just posted this on the Google Classroom. So for those of you that are live right now, you can easily access that PDF. It looks like this. What I would like to do is I would like to go over the directions of how these two pages would be completed. I would like to go over a couple of problems from each page if need be. And then I would, I would like this completed. Now, in terms of getting it done, obviously it would be fantastic if you guys would be able to get it done today. I'm going to be creating a Google Classroom assignment that you can submit it to. But if you don't get it done during this particular class period, you could always take a picture of it when you have it complete, upload it to the Google Classroom assignment, and then go from there. That would be wonderful. But I mentioned that it was a catch-up day. And the reason why I mentioned it being a catch-up day is because I wanted to, again, give you more time to get other things done. Whatever assignments that are outstanding in this particular class, this class, I should say, I would then give you some time to work on that today. This assignment, I don't foresee it taking a super long amount of time. This is more of a classwork thing. I'm not going to be grading this as a minor or a major. It's more like a homework type situation. Please keep that in mind. Obviously, I have to submit it as something in Google Classroom. So if I'm grading it like a homework, as long as it's completed and on time, it would count as that 100. But like I said, I want to take the majority of this class period and actually spend it catching up on other things. So that's why I entitled it Series and Sequence Catch-Up. So for the first little part of this class period, I would like you working on this, obviously, but it won't be due today. I will have that Google Classroom assignment for you when the time is appropriate. But I want to show you how this thing actually rolls. Here we go. This worksheet, this PDF that is, again, available to you in the Google Classroom, goes through a series of questions. So activity 34 is unto itself. It asks you in the first little portion up here to determine the values of S sub 1 and D. Now, S sub 1, they're using a different letter than what we have typically used. They're using a slightly different letter. Hold on, announcement.
Frank from Technology, please call the main office. Frank from Technology, please call the main office.
So S sub 1 is really A sub 1, just for the sake of argument. That's really A sub 1. They're just using a different letter. A sub 1 being the first term, and D being the common difference. But then once you identify those, they want you to write the expression for the sequence, which is basically the general rule. They want the general rule. Now, this formula is the exact formula that I have given you, except again, instead of A sub 1, they're using S sub 1. That's the only difference between what they're doing and what we're doing. So it's like, okay, well, I just take the 2 and I plug it in for S sub 1, and it's plus 3 every time, so I plug in a 3 for D. Oh, you can't see what I'm writing. There we go. I'm just identifying what those pieces were. And then we could potentially identify what that general rule is. Now, for the sake of argument, this actual general rule, if you went through the whole formula here, would end up being 3n minus 1. It would end up being 3n minus 1. That is the general rule for this particular problem. But now that you have the answer for this particular part of the problem, now that you have that answer, you have to go into this grid to the left. Because every answer that you find should be an answer within one of these squares. And so, for example, if I go through this, I can find the answer for 3n minus 1 actually in 2 different locations. Sometimes they'll be in multiple locations. Sometimes they won't be. It really depends. But I found that 3n minus 1 in 2 different locations. Now, the logic behind this is, well, the shape that is corresponding to that particular answer is how I'm going to be shading in that block that has 3n minus 1. You just basically shade in the block as the picture actually asks you to next to that answer. The idea is that when all is said and done, it should give you a nice looking picture. Kind of like a weird looking, like, well, all of the shapes on this particular page will end up going into this, and it'll look like a neat looking little geometric image, so to speak. Now, it's up to the individual whether or not they want to use like multiple colors and whatnot for that. I'm not going to be a stickler for that whatsoever. This is just purely a mechanical thing to kind of be like, oh, I got a really cool image at the end. That means I must have gotten every answer correct. but that's generally what I want. Now, the first set of problems on the first page are all done in that way, where you would identify D and the first term, and then use that formula to get the general rule. That's how that first set of problems are done. But in the next little section down here, they're giving you a different set of directions. In the second section right here, now all of a sudden they want you to do this. Now, this formula is slightly different than the one that I gave you. This formula is slightly different than the one that I gave you, and this notation is slightly different than the one that I gave you as well. So I do, again, want to explain how to do that, but I have to like write down that notation. Well, I am going to write down this notation in a few moments. So I'm going to double back to this section. But then you can see the third section, they're using that formula to find the sum of each arithmetic series. This one right here, that's the formula that Carl Gauss eventually came up with when he was an adult. And this problem right here is quite literally the problem that Carl Gauss was faced with when he was a child. This is literally that problem. If you're trying to find the sum of the first 100 terms, it's just a matter of, well, 100 times 101 divided by 2. And whatever that answer is, then you can identify that answer in the grid above and shade it in. But then we end up down here where they want you to use this formula to find the number of terms. I'm actually going to walk you through this first example right here. I'm going to just walk you through this first example right here. This L is indicating what they call a last term. It's very strange, but that L is just identifying a last term. I don't really like the way they use that notation, but that's on them. But this is the setup. The last term equals the first term plus parentheses n minus 1 times 3. I'm not going to solve that problem for you. I'm just going to set that one up for you, being that this is the last term, 55. Negative 2 is the first term. They're using S sub 1 here. And 3 is the common difference. If you can solve for n, then you would find the number of terms that they used in order to get this arithmetic series, is what that comes down to. Now, like I said, I am going to double back to that notation. But let me look what the second page has in store for us. The second page is similar, but it has geometric sequences. So, for example, up here, they want you to find the common ratio. This is literally, they just want the value of R. What is the common ratio? What has been multiplied each time in order to get the next term in the sequence? So, like, for example, I'll just do one of them right here. I just like this. Well, no, I won't do that one. I'll do this one. Yeah, that one works. Okay. So, like this one right here, clearly it's going down. Clearly this thing is shrinking. But what is it shrinking by? Well, it went from 100 to 50. So what is like 1/2? Well, yes, it may be 1/2. But keep in mind, it's alternating between negative and positive, negative and positive. R has to have equaled negative 1/2. Because each time it's being multiplied by negative 1/2. Could be negative, could be positive. And then, of course, there is a negative 1/2 on that grid. Actually, there's 2 of them. So then you would fill in the grid according to what the picture is. Then in the middle right here, they have that notation again, which I'm going to explain what that notation is. I am going to have to take a very, very brief set of notes explaining what that notation is. And I'll actually take a problem from here and a problem from the previous page to show you what's expected of you. Because they want you to find the sum of that geometric series. So yeah, we will actually do a couple of those problems together. And then in the last section down here, this is an infinite sum. You can tell it's an infinite sum because of the dot, dot, dot. In fact, this formula is the formula that I had you write down into your notes either earlier this week or, yeah, it was probably earlier this week, something like that. But that was the infinite sum of a geometric series where you have to identify the first term and that common ratio. And if you can identify both of those and do the calculation correctly, it will spit out the correct answer. Okay. For a very brief amount of time, I have to explain to you that notation. I have to explain to you that notation that is on both pages. So very briefly, if you would, I'm going to need those notebooks out and open. Now, I say very briefly because, again, I want you to be working on this as quickly as possible. I don't want to spend a lot of time with me up here. I want to spend a lot of time with you guys doing this stuff and then catching up on other stuff today. But I'm going to throw this in here as a brief set of notes for sequence series notation. And in order to describe that notation, I am going to take two examples from this packet, two examples from this PDF, and actually do them with you. So let's talk about that. First, you may have seen this before, but I don't believe that I have ever described that to you. This is the Greek letter sigma. For those of you that are familiar with statistics, which a lot of you are, we did sigma in both AP Stat and Prob Stat, but it wasn't the same symbol because in the Greek alphabet, there is a capital and a lowercase. This is capital sigma. It means the sum of, end quote. It just means the sum of. What it really means is they want you to add up a ton of stuff. And I'll describe what that is with this example. So I'm taking the example directly off of the worksheet. I am taking the example directly off of the worksheet on the front page. That is n equals 1, 6. Here we go. Now, what this is really saying is it wants you to add up the sequence of 2n minus 1 starting at n equals 1 and stopping at n equals 6. I'm going to put that in quotations. That's literally what this problem wants you to do. It wants you to add up the sequence. That sigma is the sum of, add up, sum the sequence of 2n minus 1. The sequence is governed by that equation, starting at n equals 1, which is that number at the bottom of the symbol, and stopping at n equals 6, which is the number at the top. That's what that notation is really telling you to do. This is universal notation. 2n minus 1 is an arithmetic sequence. It is an arithmetic sequence. The form of it, 2n minus 1, indicates that because it looks linear. And what I would, you could do one of two things. You could, if you wanted to, actually list out all those numbers. Be like, okay, if I plug in a 1, then I should be getting 1 back. If I plug in a 2, I should be getting 3 back. If I plug in a 3, I should get 5 back. And it's like, oh, well, it's just plus 2 the whole time. Plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. So I guess they just want me to add up those terms. Yes, technically, yes. If you really wanted to, you could use that formula as well. The formula comes down to this. this is the calculation using that formula, where it's the first term plus the last term, and it's being multiplied by the number of terms. So in reality, this would end up being a 36. This would end up being a 36, which again is the answer to that particular problem from the worksheet, and then you'd fill it in accordingly. Whereas on the second page, I did say I wanted to go over one of those problems with you for geometric series. On the second page, they give you a different problem. Let's see that one right there. On the second page, they give you this thing. Now, this is a geometric. Remember, for a geometric, a sub n equals a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1 power. That is for a geometric. I got to double check that. I mean, I know the formula is correct, but I got to double check what I've given you so far. Because I've given you different information here and there. Just wanted to double check one thing. Here we go. This is what I've given you here. Excellent. So I have given you those formulas. I just haven't had the practice with those formulas per se. Okay. I just wanted to double check the notes that I gave you. There it is. All you would have to identify for finding the sum, I mean, if you wanted to, you could literally find the 5 terms in this series, write them out, and add them up. Be like, okay, plug in a 1, plug in a 2, plug in a 3, plug in a 4, plug in a 5, and you get 5 different numbers that you would have to find the sum of. Or you could utilize this particular formula, which is what I gave you the other day. Either way, it does get you the correct answer. You would just have to identify the proper numbers. In this case, r being -3, a sub 1 being -3 as well. That's a little weird one right there. That is a weird one. I'm not a fan of that. Yeah, but it does work. I'm going to do it the other way, though. I'm going to do it the slightly easier way. Yeah, I'm going to do it the slightly easier way. If you just simply plug in the numbers for 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, you would just have to add up all 5 of those numbers. That's probably the easiest way to go about it. Let's see what that actually is. I want to try and make this as easy as possible. Boom. If you actually add up all 5 of those numbers, as the sum tells you to do, it ends up being -183. I believe, someone double check for me on that second chart. Is -183 a choice on that grid? I don't know if it is.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. See, this thing, -183 is such a random number. It's like, man, I panicked for like half a second. I'm like, oh, did I get it right? And then you said -183. I saw it right when you said yeah. So I'm like, good. It is an answer to that thing. So that actually is how that notation typically works. So, like I said, trying to make this as straightforward as possible. This worksheet is actually a very good example as to the types of things that you would be expected of you to wrap up sequences and series. So, the time right now is about 7:46. For those of you that are online, and I can see I got I had two comments before. Actually, one comment was retracted because it was from a screen name that I'm assuming was somebody's personal name. But for those of you in the chat, if you have not left a comment, leave a comment. But let me re-describe for you that are coming in a little bit later what we are doing today. The goal for today, the goal is to get a little bit of catch-up. So for those of you that are in the live chat, I posted a PDF. Of the worksheet that I just started showing you guys today. This one right here, it should say activity 34, and then on second page 35. I just went over the notation as to what some of those things meant, and I went over a few problems on each page to kind of walk you through what is expected of you. So number one, we can be working on this. This is going to count as like a homework assignment. It's not going to be graded as a major or a minor. It's going to be graded as a homework assignment. But I am going to make this due next week, early next week. But the objective of today was catch up. So there are other things that perhaps you owe me, whether it be a project or an assessment or something like that we can try to catch up on Google Classroom. And that would be fantastic if we could do that. So that's my main objective for today. I am going to create an assignment for this, but it is going to be homework and it is going to be due next week. But other than that, this is a catch-up day. So for those of you that are in the chat, and I can see, like, again, I can see the blah, blah, and I can see the Sydney's comment, you know. I'm going to keep the chat open, of course. I'm going to keep this live stream going. I'm going to leave a comment, actually. Here we go. I'm going to leave a comment to that effect. But of course, if you have any questions, I can answer them along the way. Today is a catch day. There will be an assignment for today that will count as a, quote, homework, but won't be due until early next week. Otherwise, you are to work on any and all assignments that are any and all assignments. I'll have to do another comment. Boom. ... That are late or not turned in. Perhaps a project. Boom. There we go. So like I said, I am going to leave this live chat open though. Just for the sake of argument, I already turned off like one of the lights. Would you guys object if I knocked off both lights? Okay. Nicole? Okay. It's like, I'm like sweating up here. You know, I don't know how you guys are doing, but let's see how it actually looks. Is this terrible? Can we see okay? Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Because it is a weird looking day. But yeah. So if you guys obviously here have any questions, or if there are any questions from the chat, I just left a couple comments there. Actually, let me leave one more comment, just for if there are questions. Hold on. I am going. Nope, let me do that. Here we go. I'm going to leave the live stream on in case you guys have any questions. Please comment, and I will be checking periodically from on my phone. Ooh. So. There we go. Good. That's not us.
I don't think I did this right, because the picture does not look right.
All right, listen. So 34.
Definitely not.
The majority of it does look correct. The only thing that messed up was this one. I think that was the only one that messed up, according to that. Because everything else, like you see, like it's got a little Pac-Man thing where it's going like down, right, up, left, and then all of them kind of have that. Yeah, it looks like it's only those two
I
squares.
think I just colored it in wrong.
Let me see.
It's supposed to be there, so I definitely colored it in wrong.
Oh yeah, because it was there was negative
Yeah,
15.
I think because I
Yeah.
added it to one of these.
Okay,
One of the ones that had the 15 there.
I gotcha. So you have the correct answer.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Do either of you go to the outside tent for lunch? The outdoor tent will be closed for lunch today. This is for today only. They don't have a reason why. I can assume, but Yay, that is us. Okay. So you have your instructions. I still haven't seen anyone else comment in the chat, but I did leave those instructions in the comments for myself. But I am going to sign off. Yay. And my room didn't get really hot, so I'm just going to like hope for the best that the weekend's not going to wreck everything. So, yay. See you guys. And